Continuing the single authors cases. Let's see. Let's look at this right here. Okay, I want to pronounce this guy's name right. He's kind of obscure. Will.i.am Shakespeare. I don't know if any of you have heard of this guy, but he wrote some good plays. What many don't realize was that he was also a cat. Here's the true author of Shakespeare's work. This cat. No, Shakespeare was Shakespeare, but that's another topic. Jokes aside, Shakespeare, of course, one of the most famous writers of all time, certainly in English. He came in right after the great vowel shift in English, when the language was kind of taken the syntactical shape it's taken today, and the sound shape, whatever you call it. And he wrote about things in such compelling ways that it seemed to codify basic elements of human nature. And, Baby Squirrel really is, she's a big Shakespeare fan. She was just chirruping about this author earlier. She really likes A Midsummer Night's Dream. And here's a complete works of Shakespeare that this was always in my house when I grew up. It's printed on like onion skin paper, like India paper. And this is from that era when books were read by the whole family, and a family's book collection was kind of like a key thing. That era seems no more, but maybe it still exists for some people. My kids have all grown up with the library around, and they've commented on some titles in the collection that have like imprinted themselves on them. Like Please Kill Me, and sadly is one of them. My daughter Anna and I put two of these titles in a song lyric, or something like, God is not great, so why be moral? She had this amazing punk band called Sedation that she was the front person of. Oh man, they were amazing. When they would play, like everyone would have their phones out. Just like, what is this? Like seeing a young Courtney Love. They should have been signed, but instead they broke up because their guitarist was, I don't know, lame. Which sucks because he was an amazing guitarist. Okay, check this out. And note the Gothic font of that stamp. Alterer Farrell M. Smith. Smith. How would they say that in German? Schmidt. I'll change it to that name. But this was from when my dad was a Mormon missionary. But he was a Mormon missionary in Berlin right after the wall had gone up. And, or like even while it was going up. And I find that so interesting. Like he was just right there. I mean, yeah, I am not a part of that group anymore. And he now has dementia and is living in an old folks home in Arizona and thinks I'm an employee at the place where he lives. Doesn't remember me at all. But I find it so interesting that he was in Berlin when the wall went up, and I was in Berlin when the wall came down. We were living in Austria at the time, because my dad then was a Mormon mission president. He was in charge of all the Mormon missionaries in the country of Austria, most of Austria. And we lived in Vienna for 3 years while he did that. And the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, and my mom was like, let's go. She was an adventurous sort. And so her and my then younger brother and I, we all flew to Berlin, which was just like an hour or two away by plane, and just spent this week in East and West Berlin. It's crazy. But just the circular nature of life is crazy. My dad was there when it went up. What? I was there when it fell. Strange. I don't know what kind of... The paper doesn't feel especially thin. Maybe it's just really small. It's in columns. Oh, it's got color plates, and they're awesome. Merchant of Venice. Okay, this picture's actually probably racist. The Winter's Tale. It's got a cool, like, ribbon. Man, this is a book made to last. I love it. I had another big marked up textbook, Complete Works of Shakespeare. I must have gotten rid of it during the Purge. The aforementioned, in many videos, culling of my collection from about 11,000 down to about 3,000. Who's joining us? Chris Mo may be quiet, but she has very strong opinions on literature. She enjoys when books are being read because that means someone's sitting still and can pet her. Yeah, I took at least 2 semesters of Shakespeare at UNM, and it was awesome. Barry Gaines, this drama critic and drama teacher, he taught it, and it was fantastic. His love for Shakespeare was so profound, and we all, man, everyone loved that class. I made good friends in that class. Those classes, Shakespeare's powerful. Here's Shakespeare's foray into poetry. Obviously, he's good at that stuff. It's a little weird. The whole book seems to be dedicated to a 14-year-old boy. Shakespeare, what's going on there? It was a long time ago. Don't think about it. The Sonnets and a Lover's Complaint. Navajo Book Project, not for sale. Whoa. He wrote these sonnets when he was my age. In the year 1609. He was 45. Wow. Why was it dedicated to a young boy? Maybe it was like a patron. He really needed to flatter. I don't know. It's 16 aughts, man. Everyone just does whatever. But you know, there's that whole "shall I compare thee to a summer's day." There's some pretty immortal lines in here. All these paperbacks and more are also in that little book there. Coriolanus, some of these old editions are just beautiful. Signet classics. I don't know anything about this one. This was one of his earliest ones. Harder to find, King John. That means this was on the Bird Song Used Books sales cart long ago. It's a great little UNM College area bookstore. Wow, oh, that's so cool. I'm trying to bring back long titles. I'm gonna... I love a long, like, late medieval title. As You Like It. I've been trying to own, and I'm still working on this slowly, a paperback copy of every Shakespeare play. For when I do a complete read-through. I basically have done a complete read-through with those Shakespeare classes. We went through all the plays over 2 semesters. And Do About Nothing is so great. I think this is the play that I realized, oh, I love Shakespeare. I went to the Cedar City, Southern Utah Shakespeare Festival because my sister Leanne's husband was a Shakespeare scholar. He taught Shakespeare at Center College in Kentucky, and he might still, honestly. Philip White. But that guy knew Shakespeare. And he made me an anti-Shakespeare conspiracist for life. I'm like, Shakespeare wrote Shakespeare. The scholarship is there. Stop trying to say that Francis Bacon wrote everything that Shakespeare wrote in addition to that. Or that Ever de Vere stuff. Come on. There's so much classism in the whole Shakespeare conspiracies. You know, how could the poor son of a glove maker with only a 6th grade education write such great works? First of all, he's just a human writer. There's imperfections throughout his works. There's clocks in Julius Caesar. Do you really think Hamlet is a good depiction of Denmark? It's a great work, but Shakespeare was a writer with his own idiosyncrasies and tics and so on. Romeo and Juliet is so Italian. Not really. The name's a little bit. Anyway, don't put anyone on a total pedestal. But Shakespeare, like, his works still have power to move today. If you see a play done well of a Shakespeare piece, you just understand it. I'm also trying to own 1 DVD for every Shakespeare play, like a movie adaptation, because they are meant to be seen performed. So that collection's been slowly growing over the years. I don't think I got rid of all those. But yeah, I saw Much Ado About Nothing on stage in Cedar City, Utah. This great like Red Rock amphitheater type place near Zion. And it was fantastic because my brother-in-law wanted us all to go to it. So good. I'm like, Shakespeare for life. I was like 13 or 14 probably. Flash forward to decades later, and my daughter Anodyne performed in it at her high school, and she was great. She was the scene stealer. Every scene, it was like, who's that electric presence? Big fan of my kids. They're like very talented people. Anodyne will probably be known to the world someday. She's she's just kind of a major presence. Romeo and Juliet, classic. I like the Baz Luhrmann movie. I like the Zeffirelli movie. It's a classic tale. I want it to end differently every time. Winter's Tale. Yeah, it's kind of cool. You can tell that a lot of these are from different sets. I don't want a complete set of any of them. I want just one play of each. I would not mind a complete set of these Signet classics. They're so pretty. And they've all got good scholarship and so on. Macbeth has always been a favorite of mine. There were always copies of Macbeth kicking around my family's home. So many great set pieces and things that happen in them. The woods coming up the hill. Out, damn spot. To be or not to be. That's from this, right? The Witches. Those awesome, iconic witches. I wish Roman Polanski's movie version of this wasn't so good, because that guy was convicted of statutory rape and is a fugitive outside of America. But that Polanski movie is so messed up because it was where he was channeling his grief and horror over the Manson murders. His wife was Sharon Tate that was killed by the Mansons. So that movie is a unique artifact. Anyway, Macbeth. I recently saw this performed at a high school by high schoolers while I was substitute teaching. And then later that day, there were all these students walking outside carrying branches around. I'm like, what is life? How is it so connected to my reading life and literary life? They're in the Matrix. Anyway, Timon of Athens, Richard III. Oh, this is great. The original Breaking Bad, classic villain origin story. I would also compare this to the movie Cobra Verde from Werner Herzog, his last Klaus Kinski movie, besides his documentary about him. Similar things where the main character gets their comeuppance and they end up with nobody to help them when they're desperate. What? Henry V. The Merry Wives of Windsor. Well, hello. Comedy of Errors. Dang. I'm like fewer than 10 books away from having all the plays in paperback. Then I have to read them all. What's this? Titus Andronicus. Turned into a very stylized movie. And Timon of Athens. Okay, I don't know what to do with this one. This isn't what I meant. I don't want two in one. If I find individuals of these, I'll get rid of them. This. Oh, I've already got Timon of Athens, so I just need an individual Titus Andronicus done. This one's going to a free box. Anthony and Cleopatra. The Two Gentlemen of Verona. Kind of interesting how this drawing imitates what we see when we read a little bit. How there's elements that are more in detail, more filled in, and elements that are just not thought about or looked at. Like if you describe like a passing of something between hands, between two characters, how does that look in your brain, when you read it as a reader? Do you just see the hands? Do you see the whole scene? Just got this one from a thrift store over here recently. The fourth part one. So I'm still working on this. Ooh, newly revised. Thrift store had a terrible stickering method that messed up pretty much every book I took their stickers off. Do better, Goodwill on Wantabo. Talk to Savers. They have the perfect sticker tags. They come right off. Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. Shakespeare. Shakespeare's dad was once fined for not going to church. Yeah, I don't want to live in a theocracy. He didn't get his church token to put into the civic box for proof of attendance. Measure for measure. Some of these I could not tell you their premises at gunpoint. I have no idea. 12th Night. It's about Hanukkah. Probably not. Merchant of Venice. Classic. Midsummer Night's Dream. I saw this performed by a local theater group in Civic Plaza in Albuquerque. The plaza where the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth ends. David Bowie's sitting at a table there. Like no one ever does there. At least not anymore. But I was watching a play of this, but I think my daughter Willow was really young and she was in a carrier and I was kind of walking her back and forth behind the last row of chairs, and I looked up, and there was this skyscraper hotel, one of the buildings surrounding the plaza, and I could see somebody breaking into all the rooms with a flashlight on one of the upper stories. Now I'll always think of that when I read A Midsummer Night's Dream. I see it. I made a call to the hotel about it. They were like, really? Okay. But missed the middle part of this. I saw this also performed at Free Public Theater in Boston once at a plaza. It was great. Othello, classic. Just read this with classes a bunch of times and watched the play a bunch of times. It's living large in my brain right now. I swear, I think like Iago can be reduced as a character pretty quickly if you factor in racism. But yeah, I think people maybe give that character a little too much credit for being wild and mysterious. Like, yeah, he's just resentful. I mean, I don't know. I was talking with another teacher at the high school I've been working at, and she's totally like, no, that doesn't explain him. He's just using that element to turn people against him. I mean, Iago's using that to turn people. Iago is a great, seemingly just like horrible for no reason villain. It's another one of those wild tragedies where you're like, I wish this would go different. I read some online commentary that was like, this was supposed to be a comedy. Yikes, what a cover. Tempest, a little fantasy. Magic Island. Full of classics, classic lines. Troilus and Cressida. Hamlet, which I've read many times and have other books connected to it. Pretty much every character in here has gotten their own book or miniseries or movie. Amazing. Shakespeare really is a paperback writer. Here's some books about Shakespeare. This looks beautiful as an object. Love it. Amazing. Gorgeous. 1960. Whoa. How Shakespeare Changed Everything. I think I read that one. Story of the Night. Studies in Shakespeare's Major Tragedies. I think I read that one. Beautiful. Look at that book. Pretty. 1961. Got the Rhythm of the Night stuck in my head now. Another beautiful large-size paperback from another time. Look at what's going on there. Is it a crown? Is it a UFO? It's a striking image. I'd wear that on a t-shirt. My son gave me this for Christmas. 2015. He was 7 years old. That's so cute. Oh, I love you, Hagen. And then you wrote in a historic book. This thing's probably... Just kidding. Oh, it's a 1975 reprint. This book doesn't smell right. Dang it. I think this came from a Smoky collection. This book's been helping me in my quest to get all the Shakespeare movies. It's kind of a cool subject. Just all of the adaptations of his work. It doesn't look complete. Oh, maybe it's the different plays, and there are many adaptations, right? This book doesn't smell great either. This is one of the best Shakespeare books I own. I love this book. Bill Bryson's deep dive into Shakespeare. It's a good book on its own, but this I bought new because I wanted it so badly from Bookworks. This is an illustrated edition, full color. If you're a Shakespeare fan, this is such a good book to have. And there's a chapter in here called How We Know Shakespeare Was Shakespeare or something like that. And it's the one to point people to that are like, Shakespeare wasn't Shakespeare. He didn't write his own stuff. Because the case is pretty sound that he wrote his own stuff. And, I hope people give me credit for my work in the future. I guess it is a compliment to be like, it's too good. How could someone have written it? How could he have written it? It's a beautiful library plasticed biography. I listened to the audiobook of this. But wow, what a beautiful edition. I'm so happy to own this. Whoa, Albuquerque, January 1964. Hey, I love that says Albuquerque. That's amazing. This book was owned by somebody in my city before I was born. Mary something. $8.99. Where did I get this? Downtown Books? 1963. Hey, 60s, you were great for book design. Getting a really nasty smell around these books, but I think I maybe just be downwind of the cast litter box in a neighboring room. Or listen to the audiobook of this, too. It was good. Will in the World, How Shakespeare Became Shakespeare. I may have read this also. I feel like I spent some time with this book. But it's not just a biography, but it's about how his work became popular over time, how the reception of it changed over time. This is a nice thing to have, a giant book. Shakespeare A to Z, the essential reference to his plays, his poems, his life and times, and more. Forward by the Royal Shakespeare Company guy. Monogrammed scholarly resource. British theatrical producer Barry Jackson. Jackson was extremely influential on 20th century Shakespeare production, especially with his modern dress productions of Cymbeline, Hamlet, and Macbeth. Mercer, ghost character in Timon of Athens. Oh wow, so this gets so specific. How cool. But when I read these, I will sometimes be consulted this. Maybe I gave up on the Shakespeare DVD thing. I was just looking through these and I can't find any of them. I think I maybe let them go. What do you think, Prisma? Weird. I also recently picked up this memoir about teaching Shakespeare in prison. I'm about to give Othello the audiobook to a free box because I don't have a CD player. I don't know when I'm going to get one again. This has a gross stain on it. I just can't get over it. Well, Shakespeare. I like him. I think he's great. I think to be affected by his writing or a performance of his works is to have an undeniable experience. I think he wrote his own stuff and that a character comes through as author-narrator of his works. I have a sense of William Shakespeare from all the works of him I've read over the years. I hear Hamnet is good about his family, that novel. Recent book. But, you know, here's somebody who wrote something that stayed alive for 4+ centuries now. That's incredible. Good for you, dude. You know? You made writing that gave humans, like, a larger mythology for themselves. You know? New archetypes, distilled archetypes. You know, your work added to the world. You're worthwhile. Love Shakespeare. He's great. You know, all the best. They always get haters, of course. But quality speaks for itself. Einstein was, when he heard that 200 scientists thought his theories of relativity were wrong, he's like, well, if it was wrong, it would have only taken one of them. I feel that way about the quality of greats like William Shakespeare. You know, like, if it really sucked, we wouldn't still be talking about it. It wouldn't still be around, you know. Guy was awesome. Truly great writer. Added immensely to the world. Saved something really fundamental about humanity and put it on the page. I can't believe I got rid of all those Shakespeare DVDs. That's crazy. Seems like I would have kept up Baz Luhrmann, Romeo and Juliet at least. I had this wild Australian, modern, gritty reboot of Macbeth, and it was so funny. Like the woods of Dunsinane come up the hill on lumber trucks, and there's machine gunners hidden inside the lumber trucks. Amazing. They didn't trust the source material enough, though, in parts, and let the long monologues happen. That would have been better. William Shakespeare did not put back together well. I'll have to work on that a little more. Anyway, Shakespeare's a good one. I hope you have some Shakespeare in your collection. You know, it's kind of like the Beatles, you know, like, actually good. I mean, yeah, it's kind of everywhere. Kind of can't escape it. But the hype is based on something. All right. Later, everybody. Thanks for reviewing. I'm at like 192 subscribers right now. That's pretty cool. People are watching these things out there. It's going to be interesting to see which authors, as I do these individual shelves, get more views. Little popularity contest, huh? All right. Take care, everybody.